region of France. We're all set for round 7 of the MotoGP World Championship in 2022. Air temperature, the hottest condition we've had of the weekend so far. I've just actually popped out of our commentary box position after that dramatic Moto2 race here. It feels very, very muggy. It feels very, very sticky. But thankfully at the moment, the rain that was forecast for around this time of the day on race day here in Le Mans has stayed away. Let's hope it does so, because we have got what promises to be a cracking 27-lap Grand Prix of France coming your way here at the Bugatti circuit. Packed grandstands. There is not a spare seat in the house, with the home crowd supporting two men here mainly. Fabio Quartararo, the reigning world champion, the first time a French rider has come to his home Grand Prix in the Premier class, leading the world championship, the reigning world champion, and it's 1954. The last time, can you believe it, nearly 7 decades ago, that a French rider won his home Grand Prix in the Premier class. That's coming up in just under half an hour's time, the start of this 7th round, in the company of myself, Matt Burt, and Lewis Sotheby alongside me in the commentary box, with Simon Crafar down in pit lane. All eyes though, Lewis, on this young man. Can he deliver that rare home victory for these adoring fans?
There are thousands and thousands who are hoping he can do just that. Fabio Quartararo and Johann Zarco, of course, who we're now looking at carrying the hopes of the home crowd. Johann Zarco hasn't had a particularly happy 24 hours since he didn't qualify 6th yesterday. He's been given a 3-place group penalty for this afternoon's Grand Prix. We'll confirm the reasons for that in just a moment. Fabio Quartararo, though, will start on that second row 4th position in FP4, and indeed on Friday he appeared to have the superior race pace. The big question, as it was in Jerez, is can he find his way past Pecco Bagnaia, who starts on pole position?
Fair to say there's fervent and fanatical support from the French crowd here for two men. There's confirmation of your screens of what Lewis just told you about the FI MotoGP stewards. This was irresponsible riding at the end of Q2 yesterday in the Dunlop chicane, just parking that Pramac Ducati. You saw him roll off coming into turn 3 and 4. Pol Espargaro behind him on the Repsol Honda had nowhere to go. That was so close to contact between the two of them. He was hauled before the FIM steward, Johann Zarco, quite rightly. Irresponsible riding. He took the punishment. He accepted it was a mistake. He drops from 6th to 9th on the grid, giving himself a bit more work to do if he's to make it back onto the podium here in France. He was 2nd in 2017, his first MotoGP podium, and he was 2nd here, of course, last year.
So Pecco Bagnaia starts from his 8th career pole position in MotoGP. You can see him deep in conversation with his crew chief, Christian Gabarini. Pecco Bagnaia from pole position. He was able to get the whole shot in Jerez 2 weeks ago in what was admittedly a much shorter run to the first big braking zone around that circuit. The big question, of course, much like it was 2 weeks ago, is can Fabio Quartararo find a way past Pecco Bagnaia at an early stage in this Grand Prix? Although Bagnaia might not have the same kind of advantage that we saw 2 weeks ago, Quartararo doesn't expect to have the same kind of problems with soaring front tyre temperatures and pressures, although he does have Pecco Bagnaia's rear gunner Jack Miller starting just behind him in 2nd place on the grid. Marc Marquez would love to be involved in that battle for race victory, but starting from 10th on the grid, and he is the leading Honda, by the way, on the grid back in P10. Marc Marquez has an awful lot of work ahead of him if he's to get anywhere near the top 6, and these soaring temperatures at Le Mans will certainly not suit the Repsol Honda team.
Would love to have earwigged that conversation, which is still going on down there between two of the top Ducati management, Davide Tardozzi and Paolo Ciabatti. What's going through the minds of those two men? What's going through the minds of their 2-star riders here, head of the Chartres Grand Prix of France? Jack Miller, of course, here 1 year ago, famously in that flag-to-flag Grand Prix, took his 3rd Grand Prix victory in MotoGP. And what about this man, Aleix Espargaro? What a season in 2022 it's been so far for the Spanish rider, the 32-year-old. He's qualified 3rd place in both Portimao and Jerez, the last 2 Grand Prix. He's converted those 3rd places on the grid into P3s in the race. He starts 3rd here today ahead of this man, Fabio Quartararo, who is getting an absolute hero's welcome a rapturous and raucous reception for Quartararo as he leaves pit lane. I'm just standing on my feet here in the commentary box, and every man, woman and child in the grandstand, which are absolutely crammed full, are on their feet. A standing ovation for Fabio Quartararo. This is for the guy just leaving pit lane. Can you imagine what's going to happen if Fabio Quartararo wins here, his home Grand Prix in France? Amazing scenes, such great scenes. Of course, we've been coming here to Le Mans over the last couple of years during the height of the global pandemic. We've been racing here behind closed doors. It's been not what we wanted. It's been a necessity, but now the crowd are back here in force. A great build-up to this Grand Prix, of course. Fabio Quartararo went to a training session with the Paris Saint-Germain stars. He was rubbing shoulders with Lionel Messi, Kylian Mbappe, Neymar Jr., 3 superstars in the football world, and this young man is now a superstar in the motorsport world here. He's loved and adored here in France. Is today Fabio Quartararo's big day where he can win on home soil here in France.
Went to the fan zone with him on Friday afternoon when he was greeted by thousands and thousands of fans who packed the fan zone in front of the main stage, and he did get a reception more akin to a rock star. They absolutely adore Fabio Quartararo in this part of the world. As you say, the French fans have had to wait since 1954 when Pierre Monneret took victory at Reims back in the mid-50s. That's the last time a Frenchman won in the Premier class here at Le Mans, and a special feeling for Fabio Quartararo riding on home soil as world champion. Can he give this home crowd the victory that they crave later on today? Pecco Bagnaia, of course, is not going to give him in easily, although he did acknowledge that Quartararo is the rider that he really has to worry about in terms of race pace later on this afternoon. Here are the tyre options then from Michelin. 5 left-handers and 9 right-handers. A lot of riders through free practice were running the medium front, soft rear. Fabio Quartararo was among the riders who seemed to be able to run the softer front tyre. We can get an early indication now, I think, of what the riders are perhaps thinking ahead of this 27-lap Grand Prix. Yeah, coming to the grid ahead of this 27-lap race, then some initial information being released by Michelin. Everybody has gone for the soft rear tyre. I guess forced into that decision by the fact that these are the hottest conditions we've had of the weekend so far. A real mixed bag though in terms of front tyres. Running the medium front tyre are Aprilia's Aleix Espargaro, Enea Bastianini, Fabio Di Giannantonio, Marco Bezzecchi. Is that Morbidelli? It's
on the
yes, Morbidelli running wide on the sighting lap. That's down at Museum Corner, I think. So Franco Morbidelli, who's got an awful lot of work to do from 19th on the grid today, already in the gravel trap. Big 3-race scare then for Morbidelli. The other riders that are running the medium front tyre coming to the grid are Bezzecchi, Brad Binder, Oliveira, Ralph Fernandez, Remy Gardner, Quartararo, Morbidelli, Dovizioso and Binder. Everybody else then, of course, is on that soft front tyre. In terms of, though, the rear tyre, it's everybody going for the soft rear. There's the shoulder cam. What an innovation that has been here in 2022. Congratulations to everybody involved behind the scenes at Dorna with all the innovation, pushing the boundaries in terms of technology, pushing the boundaries in terms of the pictures, the great action that we can bring all of you fans at home. It's been fantastic to see that shoulder cam. The fastest cameraman in the world, isn't he, Aleix Espargaro? And that gives you some sense of the anticipation, the packed grandstands on either side of Aleix Espargaro as he comes to the front row of the grid for the 3rd race in succession. Now then, there are such huge hopes, such high expectations resting on the broad shoulders of reigning world champion Fabio Quartararo coming in to his crunch home Grand Prix. How's the boss feeling? I'm sure he's a little bit nervous, a little bit tense. Lynn Jarvis is with Simon Crafar down the grid.
He is. Lynn, great to talk to you again. Like every Saturday night, I analyse the riders' pace, etc. And what I saw was if Fabio can get in front, I really think he has a chance to win. Like, he looks great pace-wise, but I'm afraid that he might not be able to. What are your feelings?
Same. Same. So he's quite confident that he can run a really good race. And unlike Jerez, he said here there are more places to pass. So the important thing is to not get blocked in the first 3 corners, basically, and then to take the opportunity as early as it comes, if it comes. So we know how fast the Ducatis can be. We know how difficult it is for us to close in, but he's feeling super confident, and we just have to not get stuck in the group.
Thank you, Lynn. Good luck.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Lynn Jarvis. Yeah, with the hottest conditions of the weekend, then at the moment we're just 20 minutes away from the get-go here in Le Mans for MotoGP action. That will be a little bit of a concern for Fabio Quartararo and the Yamaha. And what did Jack Miller say, having qualified behind his teammate Pecco Bagnaia on the front row of the grid? Roadblock. So you kind of get the impression, the sense of what Jack Miller's tactics might well be. If Pecco Bagnaia gets the drop on him, gets the whole shot, you don't think that there's going to be any kind of aggressive moves coming from Jack Miller, just protecting Pecco Bagnaia, who was sensational yesterday. A 1:30.450, back-to-back poles for him. Can he make it back-to-back wins here in Le Mans? On that front row then with Jack Miller and Aleix Espargaro. Fabio Quartararo will start in 4th place, and Enea Bastianini will be 5th. Joan Mir, then, of course, he was the big benefactor in many respects of the Zarco penalty. The 2020 world champion moves up 1 row, not just 1 place, but 1 row. So Mir will be a danger man going from 6th spot. And, of course, let's hope that the remainder of their time in MotoGP is a successful one for the factory Suzuki team. There is Carmelo Ezpeleta, Dorna Sports CEO's response to the shock announcement, the withdrawal of Suzuki. After the recent news about Suzuki, we have received an incredible number of calls from teams and manufacturers. The championship is in great shape. Hear, hear. It certainly is in great shape, and we look forward to a future with or without Suzuki beyond 2022. What a sight that is as well. You hope you remember where you parked your bike earlier on here today. The bike parks are packed full, the campsites have been packed full, the grandstands are ran full. Will it be a famous Ducati victory here for the 3rd year in a row here in Le Mans? Well, let's hear the pre-race thoughts of their team manager Davide Tardozzi, who's with Simon.
Davide, your 2 factory riders' machines have looked awesome this weekend. I want to know your thoughts going into this race.
Yeah, we did good in qualify, but race as usual is another story. I think that Fabio is the first contender, but also Aleix will be very fast, though. So I think that our riders, including Bastianini and the other Ducati, will be very, very competitive. But I've seen Fabio the rider to beat.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, all the noise coming out of the factory Ducati camp, although they're quietly confident, aren't they, in their own potential of winning this Chartres Grand Prix of France. Pecco Bagnaia yesterday in the press conference said, yeah, I'm on pole position, but Fabio Quartararo is still the favourite. There's huge support for the French riders here this weekend. Joan Zarco, Fabio Quartararo might be the world champion. He might have been taken to the hearts of these French fans, but Joan Zarco, he's certainly popular in this part of the world as well. Those campsites have been absolutely rocking. We know why, because we're about 10 kilometres away in downtown Le Mans, a 15-minute drive away, and we've heard them in the hotel. You've not been getting too much sleep if you've been on those campsites here this weekend. Let's pop back down to Simon on the grid again. What a start it's been to 2022 for the factory Aprilia team. Heady heights there, 2nd in the World Championship. Aleix Espargaro just 7 points behind the World Series leader Fabio Quartararo. Can the dream roll on, Simon? He's with Paolo Bonera.
Matt, I think it can. Paolo looking at a bit of analysing last night. Aleix, if everything comes together, he looks good enough from my point of view to even finish 2nd. But more importantly, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure he did a good FP4. He was during all the session in the 1st position. But by the way, today there is a different condition on the weather, seems to be more hot. For sure he was in doubt since yesterday night on medium or soft tire on the rear. At the moment seems to be that everybody goes on the soft. We will see.
Best of luck.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks to Paolo Bonera from Aprilia. Thanks to Simon. What a shot that is then. The Le Mans Cathedral in this historic town. There's the Sunday market, which is always on, isn't it? We saw that here last year. Who's going to be shopping for 25 points here this afternoon then in this French Grand Prix? We just saw there Marc Marquez playing down, as you'd expect, his podium aspirations here this afternoon in what could be a very difficult and complicated 27-lap race, not just for Marquez but the 3 other Honda riders on the grid here. It's an all-Honda 4th row, or it was, of course, before Zarco's penalty. Marquez, Pol Espargaro and Taka Nakagami. Pol Espargaro's been again having a tough weekend. It's all that early season optimism, Lewis, has evaporated very, very quickly after his Qatar podium.
Yeah, he's not gone anywhere near that since. He pointed out that Honda have been struggling, particularly in the hotter temperatures this weekend. Pol Espargaro was fastest, of course, in free practice 1 earlier on in the weekend. Let's just quickly take you through the grid before we head to Simon down in pit lane. Pecco Bagnaia on pole from Miller and Aleix Espargaro. Fabio Quartararo heads row 2 ahead of Bastianini and Joan Mir. Alex Rins starts 7th just behind his teammate with Martin and Zarco on the Pramac Racing Ducatis in 8th and 9th. Then the 2 Repsol Hondas of Marc Marquez and Pol Espargaro. As we look through the rest of the grid then, let's get a word on the factory Suzuki team. A lot of work to do, but Joan Mir and Alex Rins will certainly be eyeing to go forward from 6th and 7th. Their team boss Livio Supo is talking to Simon.
Here's Livio. Looking at things pace-wise last night, Alex looks super fast. Hasn't all gone smooth for poor old Joan this weekend, but we know how good he is in the race. What do you think they can do?
I think it depends on the start a lot, but I think they both have the pace to stay with the leading group. So we'll see. The start here is a little bit tricky because all these corners, but we will see. I think it will be a tough race because the temperature is higher than during the weekend, so it's a little bit of a gamble with the tires, but I hope they can have a real fun.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So dancers from the world famous Moulin Rouge get the pre-race ceremony underway here in Le Mans. What a sight that is. Boy, have we missed the fans and the Gallic flair before the race here in France. The Moulin Rouge, will it be the Rouge of Ducati Red that are tasting the race-winning Prosecco here in France? Joan Zarco, he's trying to block it all out, isn't he, as he gets ready for a big 27-lap home Grand Prix.
There might be a few more French cartwheels following in around an hour's time if Fabio Quartararo or Joan Zarco can make it to the end of 27 laps of Le Mans in front.
You've got some of these moves in the bar later on, haven't you, Lewis? It's the French Can-Can, of course, here. There's been so much off-track entertainment and on-track entertainment provided here this weekend by French Grand Prix promoter Claude Michu. They do a fantastic job here at the Bugatti circuit. Fans were still in the grandstands around 9-10 o'clock here last night. Great show. We love that. Absolutely brilliant. The Moulin Rouge dancers doing the Can-Can. Jack Miller on the front row. Can he work his way to another victory here in Le Mans? He's certainly looking more relaxed than Joan Zarco about the whole affair pre-race.
Yeah, Jack Miller's got a job to do, of course, in this Grand Prix. We did hear from Ducati earlier on this morning, making it very, very clear, Paolo Ciabatti saying that there are no team orders at Ducati. Why would there be at such an early stage in the season? They are free to race for victory, Pecco Bagnaia and Jack Miller. The only thing they have been told is no silly moves, and of course do not take each other off in this Grand Prix this afternoon. Of course, Pecco Bagnaia's hopes will be that he can get the whole shot and Jack Miller can slot in behind him. But Jack Miller, of course, a former winner here at Le Mans, will be aiming to repeat that in the next 27 laps.
This huge home crowd here in France showing their appreciation then for the world famous dancers from the Moulin Rouge in Paris. A great way to build up here for this French Grand Prix. I can't imagine what this place is going to be like in about an hour's time if Fabio Quartararo does win this French Grand Prix, or if Joan Zarco can win this French Grand Prix as well.
Well, all I know is we won't be leaving it for several hours.
If this place had a roof, it would be well and truly lifted off. We go all the way then back to the middle of the third row to find Pramac Racing's Jorge Martin. His great qualifying form has somewhat deserted him of late. 13th in Portimao, 10th in Jerez, 8th here this weekend. That followed 4 successive front row starts to kick off the new season. And as we expected, it's going to be a tough fight into the top 5 here today for Marc Marquez. If there's anybody that's up for it, then Marc Marquez certainly is. What are the pre-race thoughts of HRC team manager Alberto Puig? I'd like to say he's with Simon.
Yes, Alberto, with the original forecast, my money was on Marc for the win in the rain, but the rain didn't come. I think it's going to be a tough day. More importantly, what do you think?
It's going to be a tough day. I think the same. We don't have the best pace, of course, and there are some guys that are clearly faster, so we must survive. And it's true that I was thinking like you. I mean, today we had some chaos with rain or race stopped or whatever, you know. This guy is a specialist. But on dry conditions, I think the Yamaha from Fabio and some Ducatis are clearly faster, so we will try to survive. But finally, a race is a race, and you never know.
Alberto, thank you for your thoughts as always. Good luck.
Thanks.
Huge thanks to Alberto Puig down in pit lane. Yeah, Repsol Honda have a tough job ahead of them. It's the first time since Honda returned to the Premier Class in 1982 that we haven't had a Honda in the top 9 on the grid here at Le Mans. And Marc Marquez, of course, is still chasing that 100th MotoGP podium. Fabio Quartararo, you can see on screen there at the moment. Our information is that he's going for the medium front and the soft rear tyre. He'll be certainly keen to see an empty tarmac as soon as possible.
I'm looking forward to this, the now traditional pre-race ceremony. Let's hear a fantastic rendition of La Marseillaise ring out over this famous Bugatti circuit here in Le Mans. That's got the goosebumps going. That's got the hairs on the back of your neck standing up here. What an amazing rendition of the famous La Marseillaise. Will that be ringing out again over this famous Bugatti circuit here in Le Mans in just under an hour's time as Fabio Quartararo goes for home glory here in his home Grand Prix? That was incredible. Nearly 100,000 fans, maybe even more than 100,000 fans have flocked and packed into this Bugatti circuit. That was a special, special moment, Lewis, as the countdown continues to the Chartres Grand Prix of France.
Yeah, I had to remove my headphones to listen to that. Of course, we heard the wonderful rendition, as you say, but just to take the headphones off and listen to the 100,000 French voices belting out La Marseillaise was quite extraordinary. Fabio Quartararo looked very, very cool sat there on the grid, but you can imagine the hairs on the back of his neck will have been standing on end. He goes from the front of row 2. Taka Nakagami goes from the back of row 4. As mentioned, it's been a difficult weekend for Honda. As we so often say with Taka Nakagami, he was very, very quick in warm-up this morning. He finished inside the top 3. Can he go forward from 12th on the grid? There are a number of fast riders just behind him who will be looking to get past him in the very early stages. But will that French flag be flying? Will those French voices be singing for Fabio Quartararo? That is the big question going to the 27 laps of this Grand Prix. Can Quartararo overcome Aleix Espargaro and the Ducatis up ahead of him? We're about to find out.
I just wanted to pause for a very brief moment because you might have just heard there back at home, wherever you're watching in the world, these very, very special scenes. The circuit announcer whipping this crowd up into a crescendo, into a frenzy. You could hear them there chanting, Fabio, Fabio, Fabio. I've never seen anything quite like this in the French Grand Prix here in Le Mans. Amazing scenes, emotional scenes, as we all get set for this 27-lap Grand Prix of France. Fair to say there's some pressure on the shoulders of Fabio Quartararo and Johann Zarco in this 7th round, but scenes here and the chants from the crowd that Fabio Quartararo will never forget. What more motivation does he need to win in front of his home crowd than to hear tens of thousands of fans that are just gathered metres away from him on 4th place on the grid, cheering and chanting his name. He is a new French motorsport star. He's a new French sporting star, isn't he, Fabio Quartararo?
Well, it's going to have to take a very cool head to deny him in this cauldron of an atmosphere. It's very much an away fixture for Pecco Bagnaia. He's got a home Grand Prix coming up in 2 weeks' time where the shoe will be on the other foot when the Italians will be cheering him on at Mugello. But for now, we have nearly 100,000 Frenchmen who want nothing more than Fabio Quartararo to take victory for them in the next 45 minutes or so. Jack Miller will be looking for victory himself, although of course from a Ducati point of view both he and Pecco Bagnaia have a big job to do to keep this man behind them. Do not rule out Aleix Espargaro, who starts from the outside of row 1. This is not a good circuit historically for Aleix or for Aprilia, but they've been turning critics into believers throughout this 2022 season.
Can Jack Miller make it back-to-back wins here in Le Mans? Will it be Viva Miller or Vive la France? Or will Pecco Bagnaia have a big part to play? Well, you know he will have a big part to play in the outcome of this French Grand Prix. Then the grid is starting to clear. Well, within 5 minutes of the start of this much anticipated, much typed French Grand Prix.
Some late Michelin tyre news to bring you. Several riders have switched to the medium front. Those are Maverick Vinales, Jorge Martin, Marc Marquez and Pol Espargaro. The 2 LCR Hondas as well of Alex Marquez and Taka Nakagami. Joan Mir, and crucially the pole man Pecco Bagnaia has switched to the medium front tyre. Brad Binder, Miguel Oliveira and Remy Gardner have switched to the harder front.
Fabio Quartararo then now getting himself in the zone for what is one of the biggest races of his Grand Prix career. He's never had support quite like this. He comes to France as the reigning world champion. That's never happened in the Premier class. A French rider coming to his home Grand Prix as the reigning world champion. Alex Rins there, his face full of focus and concentration. He was very strong in FP4 yesterday. He may well be a big contender as well for the victory here in round 7. So Fabio Quartararo is then the Frenchman that starts from 4th place on the grid. We move to the front row here for the Grand Prix of France. Can it be 3 successive podiums from 3 successive front row starts for Aprilia's Aleix Espargaro as they go in search of a first top 6 in Le Mans? Can Thriller Miller thrill again here in France and make it back-to-back wins in the French Grand Prix?